What's up, guys? It's CJ here, and come with me to review the Globex Open on June 16th, 2026 here on NQ. So you can see that we have opened, and it is 1650, so it'll be 1850 New York time. So we opened up here with a little gap on See Me Open, on Globex Open, and then we formed a range. This range came into supply, swept some liquidity right here with a potential PSY. As you know, we are trading Wyckoff here on the channel. So pull our range here, and then you do get a range deviation right there. So this is our current range like this. So deviations on both sides. Nothing really clear right now. So let's keep playing up price. Okay, and there you make a move for that high again, coming into just this whole area, being supply, but deviating that range high, getting a liquidity sweep. Let's go in the 3 minute, getting a liquidity sweep right here. So we're not sure what price is going to do at this time. Get this out of the way. But what we can be looking at is obviously fair value gaps. So here's a nice fair value gap right here that we can be looking at on the 3 minute. So I'm going to just watch this now as a fair value gap. Given that we're in supply, we're in a downtrend, we have this gap right here that can potentially be a magnet. We'll put a magnet right here, knowing that, you know, this candle right here, which is a UNF opening candle, can be a magnet. So we'll put that there. So it's reasonable to be looking for shorts here. So you get that liquidity sweep of the range high, and you leave this 3 minute. So now we're watching for inversions, and right there you get an inversion. So immediately we can be thinking, if you want to trade this inversion, I would, because the RR is not good down here. If we are going to get in, we want to be limiting and probably put my stop above that high, targeting this low for 1.8. But let's scale down to the lower time frames and see if we have a Wyckoff forming. So when we scale down, we can see that we do have a Wyckoff forming. So I'm going to pull a lower time frame range now, and we're going to take a look at our Wyckoff structure. So I really like the idea of playing Wyckoff in futures with these. Maybe I'll leave this down here. Yeah, with these higher time frame IFVGs. So we know that this is our 3 minute. That's the highest time frame that there's an IFVG there. I'm playing it regardless, but I'm taking a look at our Wyckoff model. So immediately, I did say at the start that that was a potential PSY. I only did that in hindsight. I would only say that this is a potential PSY now, after seeing this breakdown, seeing that we are in this potential Wyckoff model right here that did just get confirmed. So now that it gets confirmed, now we can be looking at it. So it was a potential, and now we get that confirmation. We also, I think, had a 15-second BOS right there. So you can be looking at that as well. We want to be combining all the smart money concepts. So you did get that BOS right there. For me, it's not a nice enough Wyckoff to be using that BOS, but know that it's there. I'd rather play the inversion, which will also get us in the Wyckoff. Instead of taking that, I need to see that 3 minute get inverted, which we did see. So let's build our model now. Build our model quickly. Let me know if you guys like the labeling. The labeling has changed my trading, and I think I don't know. I like it. It honestly, like, it looks clean to me. It allows me to like see these models in a completely different way than if you just had dots, really ingraining these things. So it's a different looking type of Wyckoff, right? It doesn't have that classic return to zone. But if you didn't even want to be a Wyckoff trader, just look at the 3 minute. Just look at the 3 minute inversion, okay? So I'll play it on the 3 minutes until we get tagged right there. So you do get tagged into the trade. I'm going to go back to the 30-second. So now we are in this Wyckoff trade right here based on that 3 minute inverse fair value gap. I didn't finish this, but this was supposed to be PSY liquidity because we're just playing our Wyckoff. model now. And we've gotten an interesting entry into it. So we'll make this, we'll make this blue. PSY liquidity there. So extend that target down. Now we're rocking, a 2R. That's a nice base hit right there. That's a really nice base hit. And yes, we have this volume on because we're going to look at it later. So here we're in this trade. And right there, you hit full TP. 2R realized in the bank. If you wanted to refine the stop even more, don't mind this high, but let's keep it there. Let's keep it there. This might have been extreme liquidity. We don't know. So that's a good 2R right there, banked for the session. And that's a nice little Wyckoff model. 3-minute inversion. And now we got this gap here too. So maybe we wanted to extend another. Maybe we wanted a runner there. So we'll continue playing out price, see what it does. Starts ranging. Now we're leaving supply. This supply block right here. Wicked into that supply, and then you're going lower, creating another supply box. So now we have a supply chain going like this. So maybe you're still in this. PSY liquidity was swept right there. I like that to be slightly bolded. That looks better. So we're still in this model. Back into supply. Did we create more supply? Yes, we did. Came back into it again. And there you got that gap fill. So that's full TP. I don't know if did that go forward in time? Am I tripping? No, I just wasn't seeing it. Perfect. Okay. Full TP, fully out of the trade if you were in, targeting that UNF and that gap fill. Remember the magnet. The magnet gets hit right there. Bang. Let's keep the magnet on because it did its job. So magnet, check. Can we do that? Wow. Okay. Magnet, check. Okay. Fully out of the short. Now what do we have? So let's get our labels off, because now we've been seeing this supply chain. And when you have a supply chain like this, you can be flipping the liquidity game. So one thing I never mentioned is this Globex high actually gets invalidated right there. So Globex no longer valid. But if you go on ES, let's go on ES. ES has that Globex high. Let's put that on. If you haven't seen the IB, I have videos on my channel going over the IB. So IB stands for initial balance. It actually failed here on NQ because maybe wanted to fill that gap. I'm not sure, but this was the start 1600 right here. So that was the open. No real gap on ES. I know the candles are just horrendous. But no gap on ES, so potentially that is why. And then that Globex gets hit. So we got to put ES back in time here. Can we do that? Yeah, we want ES looking the same as NQ. So ES is looking like this, right? So we can be thinking that we have a statistical edge to take out this Globex. What was throwing me off is I'd already invalidated ours on NQ, but potentially just to fill that gap that we created. We got no gap on ES. A volume is super nice on ES too. You can see we're right at the value area low. And so we can now be switching back over to NQ, thinking maybe we still got that Globex. It's there on ES. So I'm going to play around with still putting it on. If ES, guys, only if there's a Wyckoff model. Like, we don't have to target this as a Globex IB play. This can be the Wyckoff high, but we'll just toss it on as an extra confluence. We'll even say ES Globex IB, not even NAS, because NAS wrecked his right here. Maybe this could be the low. I don't know. We gapped up there. Magnet was a check. So that played out for the shorts. let's see how our range is developed. So we have a range deviation right there. We're going to grab our range and we're going to, place it right here. How can we check our range actually? So this was something that kind of messed me up in the moment. Let's check our range and our points using volume. So if you haven't seen my Wyckoff volume video, it's on my channel. You can check that out. The base version, there's different versions, but the base version. So let's turn on the volume. I want it to be more perfect. So we want that SC dominating. So we can be determining that this is the selling climax right here, making this the PS, STB, and potential spring test going on right here. So let's do that. Let's keep the volume on and let's find our next Wyckoff model. So we're going to get rid of this. I'll keep buying climax on there. And then how do I like to write these? I like to go up thrust and AR. So this model is now played out. Nice little distro right there. And we're going to choose to use this point right here as our SC, given that our volume is telling us that. We'll make these points blue for accumulation. And then you're potentially having this deviation right here. I know there's another couple deviations. It's all good. Mitigate supply. We're looking for a spring test combination. So what do we not put on the chart that was on there when I was trading this session is this demand right here. So you have this demand. It was also a 10-minute order block. 10-minute order block right there, as you can see. Huge imbalance, 10-minute OB. So coming back into our model, this IFEG did its job, absolutely fantastic job at that. Wasn't in drawdown for a single second on that trade if you would have taken it. So what are we doing with our range here? Let's pull it down to this low where we're trying to form a spring, and we'll bring it to this high. And we'll call that high after the fact, right? Don't have to do it in the moment. UTAR. So when I write that, it stands for up thrust, this was the up thrust after distribution, which is a UTAD, third tab of a Wyckoff model. 1, SW1D, distribution. So I write it like that sometimes when you have that distribution going over into a potential accumulation. So we've been having this supply chain, and that supply chain has been getting mitigated each time. So let's be using IFEGs like market structure now to be getting in on this trade, because we know that the liquidity is flipping. So we can be using this. This is the highest time frame IFEG right now that we can see on the chart. So this got inverted right there. Slight candle close. Was this a 2-minute? No, 1 minute's going to be the highest, but that just came right into supply. So didn't really get inverted, nothing there. So we won't take that off. Did we get any super low time frame BOSs? We did not. Unless you were going super low time frame. Yeah, anything there is too low time frame for me. So what you did do is you just came up and you mitigated supply, but you did not create any new supply there. You had a rejection block here that I don't always use them, but you did have a rejection block right here. So that's a potential entry if you liked this, and it's now the start of a demand chain. So I'm not going to get into rejection blocks. This is coming soon within the SWT system. Obviously, you were seeing the very start of SWT. With that in mind, we label in SWT if you like it. If you don't have to. But I find it very helpful to identify the points with your mind and also with volume, because we're going to talk about that volume, because our volume has continued. So we don't know this yet, right? We're just labeling potentials. I don't label it in the moment, in the heat of battle, unless we then take the trade and I'm occupying my mind. So basically I put these labels on for these reviews, session reviews, trade reviews in the moment, but I do not do it. I'll just dot them, or not even sometimes. And then once I end up taking the trade, then I'll just label them to distract my mind from the price action. So we still got that ES Globex IB still alive. Our distribution has played out. And now we potentially have a PS, SC, STB spring, which is validated by internal volume. Whoa. It's validated by internal volume right here, where you can see that the SC is dominating the range. What about this? That was part of this distribution. It's internal. Look at the points. Got to look at the Wyckoff points. So there's your SC spring, still on lower volume. Let's make this blue. Keep it the same. Blue, dash, bang. So volume intramodel, good. Now it's about getting in. We need one key factor, gonna pull a VP. So we want to see a closure back inside. We should probably pull it from this PSY, maybe. Nah. Let's check it just from here. Okay, that's about the same. I'm always pulling it from the PS or PSY, to be honest. I don't know if that's a thing. I'm going to continue collecting data on that, but that's something I really like to do. And then the highest time frame we have is this 30 second. So it's really hard to say in the moment. This is not an IFVG. Let's change it. There's a fair value gap to be watching, and then watching this value area low. It's extending right, perfection. It's a really technical trade. So you already have that rejection block trade right there. This is the craziest RR right here. I don't like it though. You know, it's hard to enter in the moment. It's really hard to enter in the moment. That's that rejection block entry. You can be watching it though, knowing that it happened. Then be watching this 30-second IVG. So similar to watching your market structure when there's nothing in the way, trading like a level 2 break to then confirm a rotation up, I would say is decently valid, and it's the only way you can play this. There's a way that you can play this for a lower RR, but this is the best entry to be watching this for a potential test. And we do get, not quite, there, next candle, right there, that bullish candle right there. So you also have less volume on your test than your spring. So that's also a +1. You don't want to see too much volume more than your spring. This is obviously subjective in nature, but that's kind of the rule of thumb, because you know you want these sellers to be exhausted. They've been getting exhausted. They had their supply chain going. This model had completed. It took PSY liquidity. It took the UNF. It hit the magnet. You know, everything checked off on the short front. Now the liquidity has been changing. We have this beautiful liquidity curve right here. And then you get that bullish candle right there. And that ends up being the entry right here for the SW1, stop below the test, and run that up for the Wyckoff high. Let's not even say Globex, because we did technically take out our Globex IB low, invalidating that for NQ. But if we go back, we can see that ES is all the way down here. So that IB is still very, very much intact for ES. And you can see ES completing that Globex right there. And then you will see NQ firing up as well. Then get some consolidation. There was a slight SMT for the time before ultimately going for that Wyckoff target. So very technical session, I would say. Super nice price action, honestly. Right down to the intra-model volume and just the model we getting that distribution flowing over into that accumulation to then blast up. Not really having the Globex IB. It would have been, you know, chef's kisses if you would have had the IB also on NQ, but you know, it just wasn't one of those times. You had it on ES. ES's candles are, you know, just braille. And I like trading NQ, but just maybe noting down, if you're studying, noting down that when the IB is still active for ES, and key word, you have a valid Wyckoff model that you're trading anyways. So you don't just want to trade the IB like anything if it's failed on NQ. And look, we didn't even say, but we broke back inside value. So that candle really broke back inside the value area right here that we're watching. But yeah, just a super Very, very technical model. I would say very technical session here out of NQ, but nonetheless, like just really nice price action, and you can see even on this time frame, look to be close on this time frame. It's still just squeaking out that SC when you're on the 1 minutes as well with the volume, but definitely easier to see on the 30 second. So all right, guys, that will conclude our session review of this Globex Open. I think it did slightly go into Asia. Let me see. I think Asia. Oh, wow. Asia was the one opening, just blasting up. So right before Asia, you're getting that 30-second inversion, confirming a test. And that was what that was the Asia session right there. And then to complete. So super cool session. I wanted to break it down for you guys because I watched it, I took notes, and this is what I came away with. Just some very, very interesting trades that I think we're going to be taking in a very short amount of time. But you can't unless we study this in depth like we are. So. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like. Let me know what you're thinking of Wyckoff and futures. Let me know what you thought of this extremely technical session. And I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.